All right, coaches, welcome to another episode of the Cornerstone Coaching Academy podcast. I'm your host, Coach Kyle Nelson. This is obviously a podcast that is done under a little bit of different circumstances. I did have another podcast scheduled to come out today. I'll either release that later in the week or as we get towards next Monday, I might release that then. It's a little bit more content driven and stuff like that. Basically, what I want to do on this podcast is reach out to all the coaches, reach out to all the players, families who are being impacted currently by what's going on in our country with the COVID-19 virus, and just kind of offer a hand, offer some support, offer an ear to listen to you. I know that a lot of players, like NCAA, has completely canceled pretty much everything that they're doing in the spring and finishing up the winter time. Incredibly difficult for those student athletes. It is really hard to understand, I think, at this point because we don't see things around us happening yet. We're doing it to prevent those things. And so, in my point of view, it is the least we can do and just kind of say, um, we're doing our part. It is a sacrifice that we're going to make. I don't know the current status of our season. I appreciate the IHSA being patient and taking a wait and see approach. I don't know how much longer that lasts for, but hopefully we can uh, resume play at some time later this year, when it is safe for not only for our players, but for our players' families, grandparents, things like that, and we're able to do so in a safe manner. I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not. So, a little bit about the timeline of things that have happened, and just kind of an inside perspective on what it's like on a team right now. Wednesday, we practiced actually on Wednesday. Um, the At the beginning of practice, I told them, I said, I kind of had a feeling of where this was headed. I don't think quite many of them kind of understood. There was some talk with players around there, or kids in the school about, maybe school shutting down. And, for kids that age, it's like, schools are going to shut down. They don't realize that schools are shutting down because it is an incredibly serious situation. So we talked at the beginning of practice about, making sure that you value every practice, every rep, every game, if we get to play games this year, because quite honestly, you never know when it could be your last. And that just doesn't go for this situation. It goes for everything, right? Like, you could be a pitcher in your senior year, you're in the middle of a start, you blow your UCL, and it's the last pitch you're ever going to throw in a competitive game. And so we talked a little bit about making sure that we treasure those things, making sure we take those things seriously. We had a very, very good practice on Wednesday. Our field was a little soft. It wasn't quite ready yet. It was pretty cold out. But we had a very productive practice. It was actually our second outdoor practice of the year. But we were very productive. Kids were very focused. I met with them afterwards Wednesday night. We had started to get some messages, me and our coach, because I had my watch on and I saw some things coming through that, we're talking about, the NCAA canceling, the conference tournaments and that kind of thing. And then at that night was the night we went home, and the NBA, Rudy Gobert tested positive, and the NBA canceled the rest of their season. And so it was kind of at that point that I realized that our season was really in jeopardy. Wednesday during practice, I had a good idea, but once the NBA canceled the rest of their season, or at least indefinitely suspended it, I guess I shouldn't say that they totally canceled it. That was really an eye-opening experience, I think, for a lot of people. Tom Hanks tested positive, and then it was like, oh, wow, this is real. This is actually happening. Something is on our shores right now that is going to cause a major disruption to our way of life. We met Thursday as a our admin met Thursday. We got the notification at 1:00 on Thursday that everything was going to be on as scheduled. So I created a practice plan all day, probably the longest practice plan I'd ever created, because I was so distracted looking for things, looking for information about what was going on, who was canceling what. And, it probably took me every free moment I had that day to create a practice plan that would normally take me 20 or 15, 20 minutes to create. We were told at 1:00 everything was good to go. By 1:30, after school activities have been shut down Thursday and Friday. Again, I understand all of this. I'm not complaining. It's just giving you a little bit of an inside look as to what, some of the things that are going on. Friday, we get an email saying that we're going to be able to practice. We coordinate with other coaches for facility space. That we'll be able to practice on Saturday. schedule our practice on Saturday, create the practice plan. By the time after school, I went with a friend, met a friend, and we were watching the governor's press conference, and that's when he canceled all schools until I believe it's March 30th in Illinois, but our spring break begins the week of March 30th. So we are canceled everything through like April 3rd. And that was what our district said for extracurriculars was also April 3rd. So I don't know what this season is going to look like for our players if they even have one. I really hope they do. We have a lot of seniors who have given a lot of hard work this year on their own with our team and over the last 4 years. And it would be disappointing to see them not be able to participate during their senior year. Although, again, small sacrifice we can make to try to help save the lives of people. And I think our kids, they may understand it, they may not, but at some point, I hope if they are not able to play or if their season looks greatly abbreviated, I do hope that they're able to look back and say, hey, this is at least something a sacrifice that we made. People in our country have made much greater sacrifices for others. And if this is something we can do, then, we're not going to be happy about it. We're going to be thrilled that it's a sacrifice we're having to make, but then at least understand why, that it's for the greater good of our country, for the greater good of your parents, your grandparents, people who have, who have immune disorders, bronchitis, chronic bronchitis, emphysema, lung cancer, stuff like that. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I'm going to be, for our elite members, just so we have a lot of elite members who also listen to this podcast. I'm going to be doing, every couple of days, I'll jump on a Zoom call with you guys and just kind of see where you're at. If you want to chat, if you want to, unload a little bit, if you want to talk a little bit about what's going on, certainly feel free to do that. I'll set those up. We can either get on one-on-one or one on several, and we can just kind of have like a little discussion going around and see what people's ideas are during this time, see how we're going to be able to help our players, help our seniors, because in the NCAA, they're going to grant an extra year of eligibility to seniors, which is going to cause, it's going to cause a ripple effect for our seniors right now in high school who are going into college. It's going to cause a ripple effect for them, because now they're going to have 5 years of players crammed into 4 years of spots. I don't know what roster spots are going to look like. There's going to be much less playing time for younger players as they, depending on how many seniors take that option, there's going to be a lot less playing time for them as they're competing against 2 senior classes, some 22-year-olds, some 23-year-olds. It's going to affect them in their college game as well. And so, not only might they miss out on their senior year, the high school can't grant them an extra year of eligibility in high school, but then it's also going to affect them if they go to play in college. And so to me, this is just something we've never lived through before, at least people my age. And it's going to be something that's going to be a challenge in a number of different ways in our lives. And, I just hope that in some way I'm able to help you during this time. Maybe you're just listening to the podcast. I'm going to try to come out with a little bit more regular content for you, try to keep it so that it's, stuff that you can digest and we can learn during this period. My intention is I'm going to teach my online classes, like I'm going to do my e-learning with my students. I'm going to be homeschooling my daughter who's 8 years old in second grade, and we're going to be doing that here. And then I'm going to try to learn a whole bunch of stuff. See what I can learn, see what I can get better at, whether it's baseball, whether it's, organization habits, things like that. I'm going to try to learn as much as I can and make this time, hopefully it's just 3 weeks, and make this time as productive as I possibly can. And I would challenge you to do the same thing as well. Spend some good time with your family. Obviously limit exposure to things outside of your house, but definitely spend some good time with your family. Play some board games. If we're going to have some fire nights here. If the weather looks pretty good, we'll sit out on our front porch. We're going to go hiking. I've already gone for some runs here the last couple of days. I'll get my daughter out and take her running. She gets up to about a mile and a quarter right now. She likes it, but she hates it when she's doing it. And those are the types of things I plan on doing in this time period. So if you need anything, have any questions, that sort of thing, don't hesitate to reach out. Elite members, check out your check out your inboxes regularly. I'm going to be sending you invitations to meet, invitations for Q&As, invitations to talk, stuff like that. So thanks a lot for being a Cornerstone listener. I hope that you have a wonderful week. As the challenges that present themselves and we get them sort of figured out as a society, I hope that you and your family and loved ones all stay safe. Have a wonderful week and never stop learning.